We're going to move on to our next segment.
What, another segment? I thought we had...
No.
What's our next one?
We got one more, buddy.
Oh, my God. I'm exhausted. I'm making more donuts.
All right. I got more donuts.
No, I don't want any more.
You sure? All right. So I have titled this segment the Holy Shit Moment of the Week.
There's no season.
Yeah. We are workshopping that title. But right now I'm calling it the Holy Shit Moment of the Week.
All right.
And it's meant to just be whatever we decide is the biggest story of that week, the most surprising, the most controversial, whatever it is.
Copy.
So, because we're off season and because we're still getting our legs here and trying to get episodes up online and stuff like that, this is actually not going to be a story from this week, but from a week and a half ago.
Oh,
all right.
You're dating us again.
I'm dating us again. So
yesterday's news.
This is from
a week and a half ago. It might as well be 10 years ago.
The Friday of the World Cup game between the USA and Paraguay at SoFi Stadium.
You're talking about football.
Football.
Okay.
All right. But the reason why this is an NFL story is because, it's SoFi. So there's always tons of celebrities that show up in the camera.
Is that the place where you have the season tickets?
Oh, my God. What if I said no?
I would tell everyone you're lying. No one, you would lose faith. No one would trust you anymore.
Yes, that's the place where I season tickets. But of course, the camera cuts around all the celebrities and whatever. And so at one point, the camera cut to Puka Nacua sitting with Jaxson Dart. And I'm actually kind of surprised that I haven't seen this blow up more online because my first impression when I saw that was, what the fuck are the PR people thinking? Right? You've got two people who have been in the news for really controversial reasons that people are really pissed off about. And you sit them next to each other? Like, I'm Puka Nacua, right? I'm Puka Nacua, and I'm on this campaign to supposedly, rehabilitate my image, right? Because of all the crap that went on and all the assumptions that people jumped to and, with the stuff that happened towards the end of last year, beginning of this year.
Just say what it is so somebody that's tuning in isn't like, what are they talking about?
Well, I'll get to that one second. But then you take him and you put him next to the guy who, everybody is pissed off at, or at least half the country is pissed off at, because he introduced Trump at a Trump rally, right? That's the guy you're going to sit him next to, the guy that half the country now thinks is a freaking racist and an a-hole and a MAGA, bootlicker, and that's who you're going to sit next to? And I just thought it was a fascinating thing that these two guys who are both great players, by the way. Obviously, Puka is. Jaxson had a really nice rookie season, and I think he's going to be a good player. And I think a lot of the controversy over him introducing Trump at that rally is a bunch of hoopla and nonsense. And we're going to talk about that in our final segment here when we get to talking about outrage culture.
Not the final segment.
But no, this is kind of the introduction to the final segment, right? But I don't know. I mean,
is that it? People like 3-hour podcasts.
That just struck me as I just couldn't believe that someone on their PR teams didn't think, the first person we're going to show you with publicly outside of a member of your own team in practice is going to be this guy.
Well, two things. Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay. My thought would be this. A, it's not necessarily a PR fail or success. Either way, it might just be those two dudes are friends and for whatever reason wanted to go sit with each other at the game. It's entirely possible. If somebody saw you and I there, they would be like, why would Noah Blake be with Kevin Jaxson, for the love of Christ? I mean, for God's sake, look at the problems this guy's dealt with, and now he's going to be with this guy, this season ticket holder? Anyway, I'm kidding. No, there's no real assumption that that was a PR decision. Because if it were, you'd have to go, well, why would they? So I think rather than that it was a purposeful decision, I'm guessing it was just probably those two dudes.
Right.
Are friends for whatever.
Well, I don't know if it was a PR. I don't think it was a PR decision. That's kind of my point is why didn't they stop it from happening? It just surprised me.
Well,
now I think that it's no big deal. But the first place my mind went to, because I know the controversies those guys have been involved in,
right,
is why, I was just shocked that some PR person didn't say, hey, maybe this isn't the best guy for you to show up next to in your first public appearance since you were accused of biting some woman.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of, it's a little bit apples and oranges. It's like, what he was accused of and what Dart did are not really in the same league.
But they both caused massive controversies among certain groups of people.
Well, but the problem is, if you say anything political, you're going to cause massive controversy with half the country.
Right.
If he'd have introduced Joe Biden at an event, all the rest of the half country would go, look at that piece of shit. So it's through your lens, you're like,
Right.
why would he sit with this guy? The other half of the country is going, way to go, Puka, for sitting with a MAGA guy.
Right.
So, like, it's a little bit insane because rational thought would say, those people are crazy.
Right.
There goes our Ferrarians. Thank you for playing. But that aside, it is really, that's kind of a personal lens morality issue rather than this guy might be Hannibal Lecter.
Right.
It's kind of, who knows? So it's a little odd
Right.
to sit next to someone who is in the middle of any kind of media firestorm. I would think that Puka's choice, if anything, would be like, I don't know if I want to do that.
Sit next to your mom.
But the other thing is,
Or someone on your team.
but maybe that is more telling about who this guy is. Maybe he did bite this woman, and maybe he did abuse this woman, and maybe he did so because he is aligned with that sort of thinking. And maybe you need to consider what team you're going to root for, Mr.
Oh my goodness. Or maybe they just decided they didn't care. Maybe it didn't even occur to them. Maybe they're just like, hey, this is my friend and I'm going to the game.
100% zero chance.
Really?
Zero.
You think no? There's zero chance that they weren't just like, hey, I'm just going to go to the game with this guy. He's my friend.
No. If I went and introduced Trump at a rally and I came and sat down to do this podcast, you would just go, yeah, we won't even talk about that. Not a thing. Totally not a thing.
Right.
No, not possible under any circumstance, given A, just who they are to each other, and B, their awareness that how the media responds to things. You can't be a professional athlete at that level and not be very conscious of that. So I'm starting to think maybe Puka's is a bad guy.
Dang. All right. Well,
I mean, that's what my if I have to put the pieces together, if I'm a detective on this and going, what's the most logical progression of this? That's what lines up.
you think so?
How can you say it does?
How can I say that it doesn't?
That behavior that he's accused of, that he more than likely did, is not something that.
Well, wait. So, Bubby, but the thing, are going down a dangerous path.
But I'm just saying, it's not something that a conscientious, aware, reasonable human being would really do. I mean,
All right, so let's-
attacked him and he was defending himself, which doesn't sound like was the case.
Well,
But if you're an entitled, misogynistic shithead who thinks you are allowed to dominate and lord over other people because they're inferior to you via their sex or anything else, you might do that.
Right.
Someone who thinks that way might support a person who is known for that.
Well, okay. So I think we're going down a dangerous path by equating what Puka did with what Jaxson Dart did. That I think is a very dangerous connection to make.
I'm not equating them. I'm just saying that
Well, no, you're saying if a guy did this, then it makes sense that he would hang out with a dude who supports Trump.
Yeah.
That's a that is not the point I'm trying to make.
that's the point I'm making.
All right.
So I send your letters to me.
I think that
Makes
is,
sense to me. That's very rational thinking.
I think, oof, that's a whole different podcast. And I don't know if I want to go down that road right now. But what Jaxson Dart did, for those of you who don't know, I know I said it a second ago. So he introduced Trump at a rally, okay? And
So he's obviously a MAGA Trump supporter.
no, that's not necessarily true. Not necessarily true. He came out with an explanation for why he did it.
What was the explanation?
The explanation is that his whole family's been in the military. Everybody in his family is in the military. Now, I'm not saying that I agree with this, but I'm saying that he did have an explanation that made sense.
What makes sense about that?
He said, my entire family has been in the military and I revere the office of the president. So I would have done it no matter who the president was.
Would you revere the office of the president who flat out said that people in the military are suckers and losers? People like to connect this Trump, military, Jesus, da, da, da. Trump has outwardly and clearly, more than any president in history, degraded the people in the military.
I agree 100%.
So if you're going to go, well, I've got people in the
But
military,
he is a 24-year-old guy, right?
and then at 24, you should go, my family was in the military. I will never support someone who degrades the people that are in my family.
But that's not what he
and
said.
stood up for this country.
That isn't what he said.
But that's my point.
He said, I have so much respect for the office of the president.
That is
not for Trump.
I don't believe that per se. Okay. You cannot say that you're going to support that because you're respecting the office. When the person in the office has no respect for the office, that does not line up.
I don't know. I guess reasonable people can disagree about that. I wish he hadn't introduced Trump.
You're just trying to not.
No. I wish he hadn't done that.
You can't.
Right?
You can't do it.
I want everybody to align with my beliefs.
Yeah.
Right. But I am not going to say that.
Wow, that sounds very egalitarian. Whatever, along with your beliefs.
Of course, I want everybody to believe in like equality and diversity. And
This guy wants to be the emperor. He wants everyone to line up with his beliefs.
I want it would be a great world if everybody agreed and viewed the world the way I did.
That's what Trump says.
That would be it.
That's what every dictator says.
But I have to allow for the fact that even if I don't agree with what they're saying, they may believe it. And there may still be validity to it, even if I don't agree with it. Now, do I think that his excuse is BS? Yeah, I think that's a possibility, but I also don't have any evidence of that. I have no evidence that this kid is lying. He may truly believe what he said. He may truly believe that it doesn't matter that this guy degrades the office. I don't degrade the office. I respect the office, and therefore it wouldn't matter if it was Joe Biden or...
Well, if that's what he thinks, he is wrong and he's delusional. Because if you say, I respect the office, and you're going to stand up for the person in the office who has defiled the office beyond anyone's possible imagination, then you are taking actions that support that behavior.
I agree with you. But where I differ is only that I think it's at least possible that he believes that.
He might.
Yeah. And if he does believe that sincerely, who am I to say, well, you got to pull your head out of your ass and look at the totality of the situation. I mean, he's a 24-year-old football player, and he was probably excited that, oh my God, I revered the office of the president my whole life, and I'm going to get an opportunity to introduce the president.
You will show your reverence for that office much more demonstrably if you were to say, I will not do that because you are not upholding the principles of which I revere.
Well, that is your opinion, and I tend to agree with you, but I don't agree that that's the only valid, only a valid opinion to hold. All right. Now, Puka, again, for those of you who don't know what happened with Puka, he had 2 incidents last year.
Yeah.
All right. 2 significant incidents. The first was that he went on this podcast of this guy who's a gamer, and this guy has a history of like promoting white nationalists and white nationalist thought, and he got Puka on the podcast to make this sign, basically, which I think most of the world didn't know what it meant, but it turns out that it's a symbol that is known to be anti-Semitic.
What do you mean he got him to do it?
Well, they were just playing around, right? He's like, hey, do this. Like they were trying to practice, like, I think, touchdown dances that he could do, right? So he got him to do the sign. And then thankfully, between him doing that podcast and his next game, someone grabbed him and said, don't freaking do that if you score a touchdown because it's anti-Semitic, right? So that was the first thing. And he claimed, and again, I believe him, is that he didn't know. And that he was on this podcast because he's a big gamer, right? And this guy has a big gaming podcast.
Did he come out afterwards and say, I didn't know, I was just doing a thing because the guy said do this with your fingers, and once I found out, I need to apologize to everyone because that's a horrible thing?
I know he said he didn't know, and I said that he said something about how, he didn't, he doesn't hold those beliefs, so he doesn't want to offend anyone or anything like that.
All right.
Now, I don't remember his exact words. I just know that his claim is, I had no idea and I would never do that, and so on and so forth. Okay.
Fair enough.
Second incident was that on New Year's Eve, he got blackout drunk. There's a woman who alleges that he shouted a racial slur or an ethnic slur, an anti-Semitic slur, and that he then bit her on the shoulder. That is the claim. And then he went into therapy for.
Now, was that case settled out of court, or was that case?
I think that the civil case is still pending. Like, she's suing him, and I don't think that as of today, criminal charges had ever been brought.
Okay.
Right. Okay. My opinion, just my opinion, super, super sketchy that this was such a horrifying event, but there's no criminal charges and all you're doing is suing him, because that just says you're trying to get money out of this guy. Which kind of feeds into what we were talking about with the last podcast, that these guys are targets.
Yep.
And it doesn't excuse what he did. If he bit her, he probably shouldn't have bit her. You know,
He definitely shouldn't have bit her.
well, it's a problem. If it was a playful thing, I mean, we don't, that's the thing, is that we don't even know.
If it was a playful love nibble, sure. But if he bit her, there's no probably.
You're right. But again, we're not, it's what you said last time. We're not, we don't know the kind.
That's why I asked you, was there a criminal case?
Right. And
If there wasn't, then we know even less.
as far as I know, the possibility of there being criminal charges hasn't been completely ruled out, but criminal charges have never been.
Well, she's in a civil suit with him right now.
She's in a civil suit because she wants money.
Well, that's shocking, because I think you'd think by now he just would have thrown her.
Well, no, because he denies it vehemently.
Yeah, but that happens all the time.
Yeah.
Lots of people deny things and then they go, here's some money to shut up about it. But I'm still saying I didn't do it.
Right. Well, maybe that's not how he wants to handle it, because he doesn't want to be extorted for money.
Yeah, I get it.
Maybe. But
That's weird.
But that is weird. So these are the two guys who were sitting together. But the reason that this is a sort of segue into what I really want to say is that, of course, when this happened.
Is this a telethon or a podcast?
This is a podcast, trust me. Everybody jumped to conclusions, right? Everybody online was just outraged immediately that he had been, and he was immediately guilty, right? He's an anti-Semite. The fact that there's been 2 alleged incidents now proves it. Like, nobody waited to see what the facts were. And if you tried to say, wait, we don't know what all the facts are yet.
Yeah.
Let's wait to see what the facts are. People be like, well, you're just an anti-Semite too. And it just it leads me to the question of, why do you think we do that? Why do we so often, especially online, it seems, why do we assume the worst before we know very much at all? I mean, without making any judgments at all about what either of these guys did, either Puka or Jaxson Dart, about what they allegedly did or did, it's, depending, because in Puka's case, we still don't know everything that he actually did for sure. I mean, what is it about human nature, especially online, that leads us to believe the very worst without having all the facts? I mean, has social media changed our behavior or merely our incentives?
I don't know if it's behavior or incentive. It's definitely changed the behavior. As far as the incentives, I'm not sure. But what it is now is what one might have used to talk about, in the barber shop or around the water cooler, so to speak, with 3 or 4 of your friends and or coworkers.
Right.
Now you can punch it in on your keyboard or on your phone, and it gets blasted out to the webosphere. And
Right.
maybe 50 people see it, maybe 50,000, maybe 50 million. You don't know. But now everyone has a voice, and very few of those voices are bothered to get really informed. They're not journalists. They don't adhere to any forum of proof or verification of anything. So anyone can literally say anything they want as if it is fact,
Right.
but it's really just their righteous belief. And unfortunately, when you see it, a lot of people, because we're so flooded with anything, you wind up in not just that tweet or soundbite or whatever, you wind up in that echo chamber, because that's how the algorithm works.
Right.
The algorithm does not work on rational, varied, considered thought.
But I think it actually,
It works on polarity.
I agree with you 100% about the algorithm. But I think that we saw evidence of this in society before the algorithms were having a base impact. Do you remember there was this very famous video, and I want to say that it was from Yale University, of this young student, African-American woman, just screaming at this professor about how he did not understand what she was going through and how he was part of the problem. And he was just standing there, right? He was just standing there very calmly and listening and saying, hey, let's just go talk about this. I hear you. I want to address your concerns. Let's go do this in a calm forum, right? And she's just lashing out at him like he's the oppressor, right? And she's totally outraged that he's not just saying, oh my God, I'm so sorry. You're right. Everything you're saying is right. And that to me was where this started. Somehow that became okay. I mean, now, of course, throughout human history, we've gossiped, right? We've speculated, we've judged people. But as an online thing, as a mass thing, that was the first thing I remember seeing where it was like, it's okay to be outraged, and it's okay not to listen to the other person, and it's okay to blame the other person and to assume you know what they're thinking, and it's okay to assume that everything you're saying is right and everything the other person is saying is wrong, regardless of what facts you have and what facts you don't. And that was before social media really took over.
Sure.
But that whole idea, that whole mindset blew up into what has become now the echo chambers that the algorithms create and all of that. Why? Why is that okay?
I mean, wow. Well, it's not okay. I don't think it's okay. And I think you have a lot to learn from a societal standpoint. This whole America idea and democracy and our freedoms and this and that is a very new experience, relatively speaking. If you look at other civilizations throughout the ages that have come and gone, whether this one's going to work or not remains to be seen. But I think personally, my opinion is, I'll try to be as succinct as possible. I think a lot of people don't want to be bothered with critical thinking. I think a lot of people don't want to be bothered by hearing and really listening to other people's perspectives or their experiences. I think most people feel a lot of sort of impotent frustration in their life. I think people feel a lot of anger and hostility, and I don't think they're clear about what is the origin of it, whether their parents were shitty or their situation was fucked up or this, that. I think people have a lot of unprocessed emotions, and I think it's easy for people to get triggered because, you pick up that Coke and I go, what the fuck, man? And I go crazy and I have this hyper reactivity to a very minimal stimulus.
Right.
And other people then go, yeah, I feel that way too. And it becomes this avalanche of non-thinking mob mentality.
Sure.
The mob mentality has always been a thing. It is a component of the makeup of human beings.
So do you think that part of what has to happen here is that there has to be sort of a come to Jesus moment here where we realize that, back in the day, the mob mentality was maybe a couple thousand people in a town, right?
Right.
But today, it could literally be 50 million people online.
Well, yeah. I mean, we saw that. I mean, I hate to go back into the political aspect of it, but when you look at what happened on January 6th, that's the epitome of it.
Right.
That is the epitome of a mob that gets stoked into a frenzy where critical thinking is not a part of the equation, and it's all being pandered to, and it's all just rhetoric and rhetoric and rhetoric. And you can get people emotionally to a state where they are no longer capable of reason and critical thinking, or where they're acting out of that lizard brain part of their body that you can't really address. But we get to with logic and reason. At that point,
Sure.
It's a runaway freight.
But we also have, at the very least, right? And I agree with you, but we at least have one thing in between us and the reaction, right? Whether it's on our phone or a laptop or whatever, you have to read the thing, and then you actually have to type it in.
Yeah.
Right. And have we gotten to the point where that amount of time we can't even process our emotions in that amount of time? I mean, is it just that it's more emotionally satisfying to rip into someone with whatever your opinion is than to actually like look into what the facts of things are?
Unfortunately, it is, and it is a confirmation bias that people are looking for, and right, looking to get um, when you do that online stuff, even if your name is attached to it, which a lot of people are not, they're anonymous in their tweeting, if they're texting their Instagram, and that anonymity gives people free reign to really just be as ugly and as menacing as they want to be. All their inner ugliness can just pour out,
Right.
because there aren't really the same kind of consequences. You know?
Right.
We haven't figured out yet, even vaguely, how to, police things online.
Absolutely. I mean, and I'm not.
We need to figure out some guardrails, because it can't just be the things that are said and done online. You cannot do in real life
Absolutely.
because it's illegal.
Well, and because you'd get punched in the face immediately.
You get punched in the face, or you'd get arrested,
Right.
or you'd get, something. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. That's not free speech.
Right.
But online you can.
Right.
And that's a problem. I think the technology has developed way faster than our morality has developed,
Sure.
than our sense of civic interaction has developed. And we've kind of polarized at this point so far, because people now, you're not subject to the news. You're not listening to Walter Cronkite or a news journalist who is accurately weighing out facts and reporting them because they have to verify them before they can say them. That doesn't exist anymore. Right. You've got polarized factions now. They can literally say anything they want, and what they'll say is exactly what will keep those people fired up and tuned in. They're not going to give rational discourse because it doesn't pay. And at the end of the day, unfortunately, that's where a huge thing that it all comes down to is economics. And that's what the media has become. And we're just a giant economic machine. And that's what movies like, unfortunately.
Do you think that's what's happening on social media too, though? Because I mean, obviously,
that's the algorithm.
Listen, I mean, we could sit here and we could talk about how, like, in the late 80s, they got rid of the fairness doctrine, and that led to Fox News, and Fox News led to all the so much of the nonsense we see today, where you're right, you can't get objective news anymore for the most part.
Yeah.
But social media is different.
You can, but it's very narrow window, and you have to purposely go there. And why go there when you can go listen to these guys tell you how right you are?
Right.
That's what it is.
What do you think it says about us as a society? As a society, that we're so angry that we just want to lash out. We want to take every opportunity, because it's not just about not having, I mean, obviously part of it is what is reality and what's true and what's not true. And that's an argument that we can have forever and ever and ever.
Well, we shouldn't.
And I agree with that too.
Truth is truth and facts are facts.
But that's different, John.
That up.
That's different from people just lash out.
Yeah.
Right? Is that Puka Nacua, we hear something about Puka Nacua, and we use it as an excuse to just say, this guy's an asshole and he's a misogynist, and and he's a fucking anti-Semite. And even if we have no idea if those things are true, now they all might be true. But that's the point. We don't know. But why do we as a society think it's okay to just lash out and say, yeah, fuck that guy, man?
I mean, I don't know that.
And fuck you if you don't believe what I believe.
Right. I don't know that anyone knows the actual answer to that. I think there are a lot of people who posited various theories. But I think at the very least, it's safe to say that when someone is exhibiting that level of, rage and outrage and righteous indignation, it is clearly a symptom of, and this might sound real psychobabble, but that's just their own insecurity. That's their own unprocessed thoughts and feelings about whatever. Maybe they feel so fucking put upon by their boss and their job that they fucking hate, that they whatever. They're just looking for anything to feel righteous and express that anger about, express that rage. Maybe they've had a somewhat similar experience before where they didn't feel justice was done. Right. They've got some unprocessed feeling of, not being heard or not being valued. And when they hear or see a thing like that, it bursts out of them before they can even really give it thought. And it's sort of it's a catharsis for them.
So it's an emotional. It's emotional.
I believe.
Yeah.
Because it clearly doesn't sound rational.
Right.
Even if something, I like to think that I'm a fairly rational person, and I think you are too. And I think there are a lot of other people that are out there like that, but we're not as loud or boisterous, so people don't hear us as much. Because when I hear the Puka Nacua thing, I go, oh, that's weird. I wonder what actually happened.
Right.
Maybe we can find some research. Oh, what are they talking about? Oh, sounds like maybe he did this or maybe he did that. Oh, we'll have to see how it all comes out. I don't have a personal stake in it.
Right.
But at some time, it seems that a lot of people seem to get personally invested in these situations. They have to look at it because I lived it. I lived it for almost a decade with my father.
Right.
So I have a very, very, I like to say, uniquely informed insight as to how this phenomenon takes place. Okay. And I could show you people that said, Robert Blake's a fucking hero. That woman was a fucking bitch who tried to scam him and she deserved what she got. And other people are like, that fucking millionaire movie star, another piece of shit famous person using their fame and influence to get away with something.
Right.
And millions of people on both sides.
Right.
Now, clearly neither of those is the truth.
Right.
But like I said, I lived it from the inside out. So I've seen it firsthand.
Sure.
And so that's, like I said, people like to get riled up. And like you said, consequences really are no longer there. So it's easy for them to do it. But also because it happens all like that. You make that crazy tweet, 500 people go, fuck you. No, fuck you. He's right. She's right. No, he's wrong. And then an hour later, someone else puts a crazy tweet out and then that's what they're focused on. Right. So it's just this weird fucking tornado of bullshit that I personally prefer to just kind of stay out of. That's why I'm not on Twitter or any of that shit. Because it's not, what's the point? I don't need to listen to a bunch of fucking people that I don't know and their uninformed opinions. What do I care?
Right. Okay. Actually, that's a nice segue into what will be our final question. Just going back to Puka and Jaxson being together and whatever decision was made or wasn't made for them to do this, right? The fascinating question, I think, isn't whether they were right or wrong to go there together or, whether there was any pre-thought or anything like that. It's whether, are they just choosing to live their lives rather than manage people's perceptions of them? And which leads to kind of the deeper question of like, how much of our behavior should be determined by what people on the internet think about us? And if the answer is a lot, right, then we're effectively allowing online audiences to dictate our lives, our relationships, our friendships, and our public appearances. And if the answer is not much, then we're accepting that whatever criticism we get, whether it's fair or unfair, is just part of being visible, right?
Yeah.
And I think what's especially interesting is that many people kind of simultaneously believe two things about public figures. They believe they should be authentic, right? But
they rarely are.
But they also think they should carefully avoid doing things that might upset people, right? And those goals can obviously conflict. So do we really want authenticity, right?
No.
Do you think people get on celebrities all the time for not being authentic, but do you really think they want authenticity?
People, now we're talking about people, we're talking about the by and large, okay?
Yeah, we're talking as a general rule, right? The majority.
Or for majority of people.
Or do they just want you, they live up to their expectations?
They want you to be authentic as long as it lines up with their beliefs.
Sure.
That's what they want. And they want to craft you in the image that suits them.
Right.
Nobody wants to really know who my father was. They want to put him in the box that suits their need in that moment. Sure. So now again, and I hate to, but there's probably like a swath of people in this country that's like the norm as far as intelligence, intellect, whatever.
Sure.
And then there's a swath that's like not even that. And then there's a small percentage above that that is more highly intellectual, more highly conscientious.
Okay.
So in that middle ground, it would seem that what is being demonstrated is that people want their famous people to behave in a way that makes them comfortable.
Sure.
Now, should we, worry about what the internet thinks if you're a famous person? I mean, I certainly don't consider myself a famous person. I've been known at different times in my life, more or less, for different things. But I don't think you should give 2 moments thought to what the internet is going to have to say.
Okay.
I think you should live your life according to the principles and the beliefs that you hold sacred, and people will think whatever they want to think. You cannot control that. And if you live in a way that is to try to pander to any of that, I think you are starting down a slope of a very unhappy life, because you will never figure that answer out. And every time you think you've made the internet happy, you'll find the other half of the internet hates your guts.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm sure that if enough people were to see this today, half of them would go, Noah Blake's a hero, and half of them would go, that guy is the biggest piece of shit in the world. Right. And then 12 people would go, yeah, he's maybe one boy the old. Sure. But like, that's just kind of how it works. So if you start trying to think about what's the public going to think, I mean, you know, that is a job that exists in our world. It's called publicists and public relations, and it's an unfortunate reality. But again, it's largely a financial construct, because what they're worried about is not like, oh, your image. They're worried about your image because your image represents dollars, sure, to the various people that you may or may not be working with. If you took out that, people would be like, who cares? Say whatever the fuck you want. Go call them the Washington animal savage creatures.
Right.
If it's not going to have a dollar effect, no one's going to care. People care because it's got monetary value. Other than the people who just conscientious and go, I don't feel comfortable being derogatory towards any people because of what their race is.
Right.
You either feel that or you don't, and it's about money. Sure. And your behavior is dictated because of that. So that would be my unscientific opinion.
No, I think that's a very valid,
Thank you.
very valid point of view. And I think I'll just end by saying that I think there's some irony in the fact that even ordinary non-celebrity people are engaging in this sort of PR management online all the time, curating posts, avoiding certain associations,
And we
not popping, going outside of their bubble for fear of what people inside the bubble are going to say.
Yes.
You know, managing how they're perceived, that sort of thing, not expressing certain opinions.
That's how we all do it to a degree. Sure. I mean, I don't go on my Instagram and post a picture of me like, you know, throwing up into a toilet. You know, you want to be seen, but I wouldn't not do it if, you know, if the mood struck me. But we kind of all want to be perceived in a positive light one way or the other. But I think the only real way to do that is to be authentic, like you were saying.
Sure.
And then when you are being your authentic self, the people who see that and feel that will respond in kind. And the people who don't. And who cares about that? You can't worry about those people.
All right. Well, on that note, don't care about those people. This has been another episode of Upon Further Review. Please like and subscribe if you like this. And if you don't, you don't have to like and subscribe, but put a little angry comment down in the comments, guys. And I'm Kevin Jaxson. That's Noah Blake, and we'll see you next time.
We tackle football. We tackle football.